Good evening, everyone. Thank you and welcome to this town hall we are calling a resident resource and assistance town hall for those who are affected by the recent storms and flooding. To give you a brief overview of what tonight is, and is also what it's not. It is not a regular board meeting. We are not here as a board tonight, but we are here as individuals who collaborated to bring this event to you. And our purpose for tonight is to give you some information, take your questions and concerns as well, and make sure that we get those to the appropriate agencies and individuals that may be able to give you some answers or assistance, and give you some one-on-one time with all of us to maybe address some specific concerns that you have relative to your property or to a particular need that you have, and so that we can help you better. So the board members that are here, this is a collaborative effort. All of us believe this is an important resource to bring to you and make available ourselves, as well as various other offices and agencies as well. So to give you an idea of how the format will go out tonight, I'm going to do some brief introductions and introduce everyone to you who is here, for those of you who do not know us. And then we are going to kind of tell you about the resources that we have available on the table for you. And at that time, after that, then we're going to invite each of you to the podium and either state a question or a concern that you have. And I think Trustee Joseph's going to talk a little bit about, we're not keeping time here tonight, but we are asking everyone. We know there's a lot of people that have questions and issues, and we want to give everyone opportunities. So in terms of keeping it brief. And then after that, we'll break, and each one of us will go to the various tables that are situated around the room, and you'll have the opportunity to speak with us individually and see if there's anything that we can do on a one-on-one basis for you. So all of the concerns, the questions, the issues that you give to us tonight, we have a form that you can fill out with your contact information, your specific need or concern. Those are going to be, again, gathered, and we are going to then disseminate those to the appropriate agencies who may be able to help. We ask that you, if you haven't done so already, if you would like updates regarding this issue, please sign up with one of the staff members so we have your contact information so that we can contact you with any updates regarding these matters as they come about. So that's why we're gathering that information. If you'd like to share it, it's certainly not required to do so. So let's just start with basic introductions. I'm Clerk Cindy Berry. To my right is Trustee David Joseph, Trustee Hank Anderson, Treasurer Kathy Elliott, Trustee Kathy Vosberg, and then also, I don't know if she has arrived yet, but Eva Verana is coming from Congresswoman McClain's office. I think she said she may be a little bit late, but we do have a table in the back for her as well. So that is who's with you tonight, and with that, I would like to turn it over to Trustee Joseph for a brief statement.
Thank you, Clerk Berry. Just as Clerk Berry mentioned, this is not a regular board meeting or even a special meeting in the sense that we are not going to conduct the meeting the way that we normally do the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. If you are familiar with our board meetings, you know that our agendas are usually quite full, and residents have an opportunity to go to the podium and maybe ask a specific question about an agenda item, and there are time limits. This is not that type of meeting. We got together, Clerk Berry and I, immediately after the floods, and in talking with residents and seeing posts on social media, it was clear that our residents were really hungry for answers and had a lot of questions and frustrations. And I reached out to Clerk Berry and asked if she would be willing to sort of co-host an event like we have tonight. She, of course, immediately said yes. Trustee Anderson, of course, always interested in hearing from the residents, and I had the opportunity to talk to Trustee Vosberg and Treasurer Elliott, who were both interested in hearing what our people and our residents and our bosses had to say. The difficulty that we sometimes run into on the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month is it gets somewhat contentious, and sometimes it's not the most orderly of meetings. There are a lot of sort of, I guess, gabblings. You can't say that, and some of the familiar faces are sort of smiling, and they know the routine here. Hopefully, we're not interested in seeing any of that tonight. What we want to do is allow people to go to the podium. There's no clock, there's no gaveling, there's no contentiousness at all. People are free to talk about their experience, and if they have a question, pose the question. And if we're unable to answer it, and I'm envisioning a lot of the questions that come will be something that we'll want to talk with our township engineers, our DPW superintendent, and the like. And so we will forward and take every question, every concern that comes forward and get it to the appropriate person, whether it be in the county, the state, or our own township. There has been expressed a lot of frustration during our meetings about different roles and what the township is supposed to do and what the township is not doing, and then maybe individual board members or employees. We're really not, I think, going to do much to answer a lot of those specific questions. I can only account for my office and what I do as your trustee, and that is to listen to you, to be there with you, and to try to answer as many questions as I can for you. I know that there are frustrations. I know that there are personal frustrations. What we were hoping to tonight is just focus on issues relevant to the flooding. And as I said, we're not interested in gaveling anyone, but if we could stay focused on constructive questions and not focus on individuals, I think it would be most appropriate. So, Clerk Berry, I know the format is set up to listen to people as long as we need to stay. I'll be here, and I think my fellow board members will be as well. When you do go to the podium, please state your problem, state your question, your concern. And again, we're not going to gavel anybody with a time limit, but if we could just stay on point with the flooding, and we'll do our best to make sure that we answer as many, and those that we can't, we will get to the appropriate place. It is, Trustee Anderson and I were just talking, it is very nice to see a packed house with the need for folding chairs to keep coming in. And I can tell you that if we had the ability to see more of you on the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month, I think a lot of our problems would be resolved. I really do. So I'm glad that you all came tonight. One last thing with regard to the ability to see this meeting. Normally our meetings are broadcast on our township page. Clerk Berry and I do not have any control over the township employees. That is the supervisor's role, and the for whatever reason, the video that we normally have is not available to us. A friend of mine, he's a videographer. I paid for his videography services out of my own pocket tonight. I will post them on my Facebook page and share them with a number of other Facebook pages, and so we will try our best to distribute it. I can't answer, and I don't know that anybody can answer for why our township engineer, our DPW superintendent, and so forth are not here tonight. They all report to the supervisor, and Clerk Berry and I have really had quite an uphill battle to just get this meeting in place, but you mean a tremendous amount to me, and I'm glad that you're here, and I know Trustee Anderson and fellow board members feel the same way, so I'm very glad that you're here, and I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Anderson.
Thank you. I don't want to replow the field that Trustee Joseph just did. A couple things here. I'm really interested. I think we are. What happened the week of August 23rd, 25th, the flood, how it affected you? I don't have any magic words to say. We're still waiting to find out on that. Just remember that, also remember that we're not just sitting up here, we're also your neighbors. You put us here. We pay taxes, we care about our community too. And I hope, hope that this is a very productive night. Cut it right there. Thank you.
Treasurer Elliott.
Some of us have hearing disabilities. Can you speak up a little louder, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Clerk Berry. Kathy Elliott, your Township Treasurer. One of the roles that I also have is I'm the delegate or the liaison for an organization called the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, and that is an organization where all of Southeast Michigan gets together and we discuss regional issues. And one of their big campaign pieces that they've been working on regionally is called One Water, and that includes clean water for drinking water, your wastewater, and also your storm water. And so there's some resources that are available to you at the table behind you on those topics. And anything that you bring tonight, I will be taking back as I sit on the legislative task force for that organization, which we go to the Lansing with. And so anything you bring tonight, I will also be sharing with them. Thank you.
Trustee Vosper.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Kathy Vosberg. I have been a public official since 2003 when I was elected as county commissioner, so I've been doing this for a while. And I say that only to point out that we have there's been many weather events, many other emergencies, a lot of things that have happened in our community over the past 21, 25 years since I've been in office. And it's multifaceted as to the solution. That's one thing. I wish it would be easy if we could just say, do this and everything's taken care of, but it's not. And our Treasurer Elliott talked about Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. One of the things that I've learned through my affiliation with them over all of the years, even as a county commissioner, is that the issues that we face affect all of us eventually, because all of this water eventually goes into, for us, Anchor Bay, and Anchor Bay goes down Detroit, down to the Detroit River, through Lake St. Clair and all that. So it affects all of us, but it flows in different ways. And how the water comes to our house comes in different ways. I say, again, you already know that, but it's a multifaceted thing. So tonight, you're going to hear people talking about things that maybe don't pertain to you, but we can all learn from each other. And I also am very interested in helping guide you to the resources that you need to get the answers you need and whatever solutions you may have. I'm sorry, I wish I were an expert on everything, because then we could, I'll take care of it. But thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. And to let you know some of the resources that are available on the table to my left, your right, I just want to kind of go over what is there, because I know sometimes a lot of that, when it's laid out, it looks like it's all the same, or you may not realize what is there, but I just want to very briefly go over for you what we have available for you. The first couple of items there are from the governor's office. One is her press release, the other is her executive order. Some of the insurance companies are requiring that, so you may want to pick that up just to have it hard copy to forward it to your insurance company should they require it for your claim. The third piece of information there is instructions for how you submit a citizen request online. So this is with the township. It is the most efficient way and effective way to communicate whatever concerns you have with the township. That can be done through the website. It will go directly to the supervisor's office, and then it goes into a queue where it's then triaged to the appropriate department. One of the other things we have over there are resources from the state government. There are assistance relief programs available for people who are low income, but there are also relief programs available for people regardless of income, but who are subject to a disaster. So you're going to want to see if any of those apply to you in your situation as well. Some of the information that we have will help you today, and some of the information over there will help you in the future for future events. And one of those pieces of information that we have for you is from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and that's to providing tips on how to stay healthy and safe during flooding events. So there may be some good information there as well. Also, we have some information on how do you start your flood claim. For those who have insurance, for those who don't have insurance, what are your available resources if you don't have flood insurance? So I think that is very helpful as well. In addition to that, what you need to know regarding flood insurance, homeowner insurance replacement versus repair costs, which may help you in determining how you are going to mitigate some of the damages that you may have sustained. as well as insurance policies and how to claim what is yours. A helpful checklist for those of you who are going through an inventorying of what your damages are. That will also be helpful again when you go file your claim if you haven't done so already. Then we have some FEMA, Federal Emergency Management assistance resources for you, what to do after a disaster. FEMA's dealt with many of these from mostly down south with hurricanes and so on and flooding issues there. So these things are already in place. We just need to make sure that we put you in touch with those things. We want to make sure that you know that those resources are available for you. So we do have FEMA information. From the clerk's office, one of the things that we have in place here is should there be a disaster and a flood here with regards to our documents and records, many of you may have lost some of that if you kept it in your basements during the flood, how to deal with water damaged documents and some of the cleanup guides and things that you can do for that. The last thing that's over there that is really, we couldn't print it because it's too large, but I highly encourage you to access this resource. And it is the Region 5 Mitigation Assistance Resource Guide from FEMA. It is 132 pages, and I believe that that is a very valuable resource for those of us who are dealing with the after effects of the flood, and then we have additional resources there as well. We have invited, we did invite all of the elected officials that represent Chesterfield at the county level, our state representatives, state senators, and the federal office holders as well to be here tonight. We recognize that because of short notice, not all of them could participate, but I strongly encourage you to contact their offices. Each one of those legislative offices has an individual who's assigned. They're either called a constituent assistance individual, or they are some sort of an ombudsman. They have resources in those offices, and you can contact them and they will be able to have an advocate who will work for you. That person is already on staff. All you need to do is call them and tell them that you need help. I served in that capacity myself when I worked for a state representative in Lansing. I was the constituent services representative for this area, for Chesterfield. In fact, it was 20 years ago. But we would have people contact us for all sorts of issues, unemployment issues, treasury issues, and issues like this where they've encountered a disaster. So those resources are also available to you, and we will make sure to put you in touch with those offices as well. So please be sure to access all of those resources, because those are people who will work for you. We understand as you're cleaning up after a disaster, you don't have, some of us work, you don't have time, or you just don't know what to do. These people already have those people in place. Let them work for you, so I encourage you to do that. And with that, I think it is time that we open it up to hear from you. The podium is there. I ask that you hit the button right on the microphone when you come to speak so that we can hear you. The red light will come on, so you'll know that it is on. And you can just line up right there, one after the other. Also, we do have forms available, and I strongly encourage you to use those forms. Those are the citizen resource forms, citizen assistance forms. If you fill one of those out and you can give them to one of the clerk's office staff, I know that we have one over here, he will take them, and he can also provide you with those forms. You can also come up to our tables and we will have those forms available for you as well. That's how we know who you are and what you need so that we can address those things. So should you need one of those forms, please contact one of the staff members that is available. They're also posted outside as well, and they will get you that information as well. So I'd like to open up to the floor. Please feel free to go up to the podium and share with us. Thank you.
You might want to put a sign-in sheet up here to do on the regular meetings. My name is Joe Kadich. I live on Sutton. A lot of the things that I want answered basically could be answered by the supervisor and the Water Township's superintendent and people in the water department. There's a lot of the flooding that we experience in our neighborhood, and in my house in particular, came from something that they did do or didn't do. My basement was completely flooded with sanitary sewer water. When the sanitary sewers are different from the storm sewers. They should be completely enclosed, there shouldn't be any problem. No matter how much rain we get, there shouldn't be a problem with the sanitary sewers. I went and checked, there's a couple pumps along Jefferson that I have to watch, you know, if there is a problem, either lose electrical contact with them or that. If these pumps don't work, then the sewers will back up. The second night, I went out there about 11 o'clock at night when I started getting water in my basement. I heard the pumps running in the one by my street. I went down Jefferson, I was gonna check on the other one, it's down by the car wash, and I couldn't get anywhere near it. Jefferson was completely flooded all the way down. I got near the main pump station that takes care of the sanitary, not the sanitary, but the storm sewer water. There was no lights there, there was no trucks there, and it was obvious that that wasn't working. I turned around, went home, and just tried to deal with it what I could to get it bailed out. The next day, I went up basically to see what was going on at this pump station at the end of the road. Nobody was there. I stopped the truck from the water department's going by with two guys in it. I told them it wasn't working. They told me, oh yeah, they're working. I said, well, I still got water in my basement. And it didn't start to reside until probably mid-afternoon. Now, I want to know why people weren't out there working on this thing. What went wrong with it? Had they been maintaining it? Did they do anything that they should have done on a regular maintenance basis? I know those pumps are probably about 30, 35 years old. And a lot depends on those pumps. For a lot of people, all of their sewage goes into that main line that goes down Jefferson. And nobody's volunteering what's been done, what hasn't been done. Haven't seen them since. I need answers from our sewer department. I want to know what was going on, particularly when I read the next day, or it was Friday, that our water department people were helping clean out some of the drains that were Macomb County Drain Commission's problem. They worked with the Macomb County. That should have been done right along too on a regular basis. Nobody's saying why they weren't done and what's going to be done about that. Everybody's blaming this on a 500-year rain. There's more to blame on this than the 500-year rain. There's a lot of stuff that our water department hasn't done for some reason or other. And basically, I'd like to get them out here and have them question and get some responses from them or the supervisor. This is really bad. We should not have gone through this. And somebody's going to take the blame for it. And I don't think it should be FEMA. Hopefully they'll come in and help. But even if that happens, I understand there's a lot to go through with FEMA to get what you need. And afterwards, from what I understand in other areas that are disaster areas, your insurance companies are either going to not insure you in that area, or they're going to raise your insurance. And all because of something we have no control over, except we pay for it. I'd like to see somebody, either the superintendent, the supervisor, or somebody here to be in this meeting and give out some answers. Thank you.
Mr. Kadich, I'm sorry, Clerk Barry, if I may.
What I'm going to do is, after each speaker, we're going to try to keep it brief. I'm going to give anybody on the panel here wants to address it or they want to address it after that. I just want to give the opportunity. So I think Trustee Joseph would like to answer.
Yeah, I actually didn't want to interrogate you, but I had a question for you. Mr. Kadich, you were here at the meeting on Tuesday saying some of the same things, and I know you had expressed some interest in talking with township staff and the supervisor. Have you gotten any response from, I know it's only been a couple of days, but have you gotten any response with regard to specifically the sewer backup? Because as I understood it Tuesday and again today, you had not stormwater in your basement, you had a sewer backup in your basement, and those systems are not supposed to be breached. They're supposed to be separate systems. Did you get any feedback or answers?
In fact, I called today hoping that the superintendent would be here today and was told by his office he didn't have it on his schedule.
Just a quick question, Clerk Perry, we obviously invited our township engineer and DPW superintendent and so forth?
We did, yes, we notified them.
Again, Mr. Kadich, I think Trustee Gosberg may have an answer for you, or at least a comment, but we will, of course, take down your information and find that out. And before I turn it over, if I could just, by show of hands, anybody here have not just rainwater backup, but sewer issues in their home? Yeah.
It wasn't nice either.
Okay. We'll of course hear more from you, but our understanding, and my limited, I don't know, Trustee Rosberg, in my discussions with the county regarding sanitary sewer and stormwater, it's supposed to be a completely separate. So clearly there was a breach somewhere and something happened. So we'll do our best, Mr. Kadich, and I know there'll probably be some more frustration, but some of these questions, just being very blunt, are not going to be resolved here. They can only be resolved at the ballot box. So I don't know that I can answer everything, but we will certainly get your concerns to the people here, and it'll come from all 5 of us. Thank you.
Can I add one thing? When I wrote The Voice, I don't know if anybody saw my The Voice, I ended up with I would suggest that everybody that had damage to the basement, flooding in the basement, particularly with the sewage, to get an estimate of the complaint, turn it into their insurance, but also form a complaint and give it to the water department.
Thanks, Mr. Kadich.
They can let their insurance company deal with it.
Great. Thank you.
Treasurer Elliott. Thank you. Just to repeat, and not everybody can hear the suggestion, but it was to, your suggestion is to take the complaint and probably the citizens forum would be the best way, Clerk Berry? The suggestion that the resident had was?
Yes, you can utilize the citizen request form, but yeah, that would be the best way to get the answer back.
I mean, they're going to have to turn it over to their insurance company, so they should have something. They should be able to go to the water department and say, here's my complaint.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Fosberg.
Thank you. I too was going to ask that when you talk about whatever your issue is, whether you do it here publicly or if you do it by one of our tables, please let us know if it was stormwater or if it was sanitary water that you had an issue with, because there is a difference in how that would be approached. And I would just encourage that we continue talking about getting the questions out, and it'll be hard to get through all of this if we keep talking some of the same things over and over. So I think we need to just keep it to the issue at hand. Thank you.
And yes, and if we can, kind of keep it as succinct as we can, because I know we already have a line of about 6 or 8 people that would like to get the opportunity. We want to hear what they have to say as well. And I know it's tempting to talk amongst ourselves, and there's so many of us in the room. Believe it or not, that gets picked up by the mics, so we can kind of keep that to a minimum. If you'd like to have a conversation, you can stand out in the hall and then come back in. It's just helpful, because otherwise the feedback comes into the mics, and it's hard for people to hear, as the gentleman pointed out earlier, some people are hard of hearing. So I appreciate your cooperation. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Van Hazenbrock, and just to let everybody know, I incurred a total loss in my basement. I had sewer and storm backed up in my basement. We had an excess of 18 inches, and again, we lost everything. So my question is the same question I think everybody has here. We've incurred the loss, we're dealing with the loss, we're going to get through this, but what are we doing to move forward, okay? I think what the people need to hear and what everybody else wants to know is, what are we doing to make things better? What is Chesterfield Township going to do to make me want to stay here? My wife and I are so frustrated that we actually want to move, because we know we put our heart and soul, all of our hard-earned money into our home. We keep it impetuous, and I can only say that every time I see a cloud now, I start freaking out because am I gonna back up again? I mean, I'm doing my own drywall work, my own plumbing, my own, just to get it back to halfway where it was. And I'm very shy as to put how much money I added to that thing, which is close to $100,000, okay, in my own basement. Call me stupid, I shouldn't have did it. But I did it anyway because I've been here 9 years, never had a problem, never had a drop of water in my basement. Then all of a sudden I get 18 inches in one day? That's unacceptable. I mean, I'm a hard-working guy, I pay my taxes, I do things, I think we can do better moving forward. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Titus. I'm the president of Admiral's Cove, which is located at 21 in Gratiot. We have an issue with the adjacent property next to us. It's deemed a wetlands, and the owner of that piece of property has gone in there, cut down trees, and has just destroyed the property where on a normal rain, it flows over into our association where we had to put in a secondary drainage in there, and we spent $10,000 of our money. So on that Tuesday when it rained, we only had 4 units that flooded. On Thursday, we had 17 units that flooded because of that and had over 18 inches of rain in their basements and have lost everything. How do we get a hold of this guy? We have tried over and over to get a hold of this guy and hold him liable because that water just pours over into the property and just constantly floods the back of it where we cannot even cut the grass after a week of it, the rain is gone. And it's just gotten worse and worse, and like I said, 17 units, and a lot of homeowners are here with us that lost their basements and a lot of property in there. So we need somebody to get hold of that wetlands at 21 in Gratiot, that he has just destroyed everything in there, chopping trees down, the brush and everything else, and just leaving it laying around.
Thank you. We're going to try to let everyone speak first, and then the board will members speak will address that. I just want to make sure everyone has an opportunity. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brett Nibel, and after hearing some of these stories here with the sewage water, this may seem not quite as important, but something that I did notice, and as you kind of flow through the community here, we do have a lot of private roads that run through Chesterfield, and it's a little different than some of the stuff that's maintained by the county and city. And my concern is more so with the stormwater than how it drains properly amongst the community versus so much as what's happened with the underground stormwater as well as the sewage water and the backups that everybody had. And what I had noticed is that we do have a lot of private roads that run through here where people live, on these parcels that are close to the water. Typically, we have private roads here, and the ditches and drainage and culverts and those that feed to Lake St. Clair or wherever the water drains to are not really well maintained. A lot of these citizens that have these are maybe elderly or just don't care in a certain sense, but we do have quite a bit of the water's just not flowing properly. And you can kind of notice that as you go down Jefferson, along Land, in behind there, and a lot of those kind of areas that sit around there where it's just overgrowth, fallen trees, debris, there's apartment buildings with tenants and trash, and whose responsibility is it, being that it's a private, there's different private ditches and that are running through there. And I just want to kind of streamline and maybe put into the hands of you guys as elected officials, is saying that, is there a grassroots effort that can be done to kind of help some of these elderly people or some of these even additional rental properties and that are sitting around there that could have these ditches dredged and dug and done properly? Because I do believe that the way that the community is kind of designed with the extreme development we've had over probably the last 2 decades here, as things have just continued to grow, more homes are being built, more infrastructure is needed. Some of those older subdivisions that are really starting to see the impacts of the flooding, we've kind of noticed that. So I guess my thing is today is not to stand here and beat a fist and say that you need to do something and Chesterfield needs to stand up and do that, but is there a grassroots movement we can kind of look at in terms of saying how can we help some of these elderly citizens to kind of dig and get the water flowing naturally the way that it needs to versus what it's kind of doing right now. And I would challenge you that during any of that, and I wish I had a drone at the time because we could have really highlighted some of those areas where the keen blockages were at, but it was very apparent, and there was a lot of stormwater and flooding with yards. I can personally speak that I do own some properties off of Jefferson that were sitting under 2 feet of water just because of that, right over there by the Bobby G's hair salon that sits over there. And that was just unbelievable to see how much water. These properties are on slabs, they're not even on basements. It was kind of, tragic. So my whole point here is maybe we can kind of look at trying to help some of these people that have, a lot of debris in their ditches. We can kind of get that stormwater dredged. And these are private roads, so the county doesn't want to deal with it, the city doesn't want to do anything with it. But is there something we can do to help streamline that and kind of give people a hand that deserve it? So thank you.
Sir, I'm sorry, I just didn't catch your name.
Brett Nibel. Brett Nibel.
Thank you, Mr. Nibel.
Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Kurt Chatosky. I live on Pheasant Street. And I think I'm just going to reiterate what everybody else has already said. But I want to clarify something here. Moving forward, I think it is the city's responsibility to do something about this. I was lucky. My basement flooded just like everybody else. And I have flood insurance. I have homeowner's insurance. The problem I have is my sump pump worked nonstop. It has a backup. The issue I have is the storm sewer is separate from the sanitary sewer. My basement flooded with a sanitary sewer drain. That's terrible. How did that happen? I don't know. I understand that Macomb County is responsible for my ditch. Nothing has been touched on my property in 23 years. They don't work right. It's a mosquito heaven. Now, we're talking about a couple different issues here. Flooding is one thing. Yeah, we got super amount of rain in an hour, 45 minutes. I walked out my driveway, and there was a foot of water in my driveway. I've never seen that in 23 years. My neighbors, all of them, basement had 2 feet of water in it. That's unheard of. Now, a sanitary sewer is one thing. That stinks. Rainwater is another issue. My basement was good until the sanitary sewer backed up. I've safeguarded against that. Now, I've heard people in St. Clair Shores that has the same issue. They plug their drains. Somebody told me to put a 2-inch piece of pipe 2 feet above the ground. I don't think that's the corrective action I should be taking. There is an issue with our pump houses. Something happened. Jefferson had 2 feet of water on it. They closed it off. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Stephen Ritter, 27805 Bertrand. We've been a resident of Chesterfield for 34 years, 8 months, well actually 35 years. We bought the property and built right away. The problem we have, I have septics, I don't have a sewer problem. And we have a county drain that goes through our property. We have just under 2 acres. In 2005, I know this is a county issue because it's a county drain, the Sutherland Omid drain. 2005, the drain was drastically made a lot deeper and wider, larger because of the Milton Meadows subdivision. In all this time and all the rains we've had, 2004 there was a big rain. Even the rain we had on Wednesday, the 23rd of August, this last August, water came up near we have a walkout basement, and I have it burned up. And over time I've kept building that berm higher and higher. But with the rain that we had on the 24th, we had 2 inches in half an hour. The rain started at 9:40, at 10:10 we had 2.01 inches. I have electronic gauge outside. Overall, we ended up with over 3 inches by the time it finished raining after midnight. I went down to the basement, I watched the sump pumps were keeping up. I have one in my walkout area and I have one with the house tile. They were doing fine. But then as the rain came higher or as the rain got heavier, I noticed water. I went down there and I saw water against my door wall by about 3 inches up on my door wall. So then I went outside to see what was going on, and here, to my amazement, this is the first time in all the years we've been there, I had water flowing like a river down my walkout. I had landscape blocks real close. I put those out. My wife and I put those out, tarped it, throwing crushed rock on there to hold it down. The water even came over that. I know it's a county drain, but since 2005, the county drain has not been inspected, has not been, I can't maintain it anymore. At first, the deepest it was when we moved there was about just over 4 feet. And it used to dry up in June and I could mow it that entire time. Now it's always wet year-round. Even at the drought last year, it was still wet in it. Phragmites have grown crazy wild around. And actually the culvert that goes through Bertrand is only a 3-foot culvert. Water's over the road. We had, like I said, we had over 4 feet, 6 inches in our basement. I tried blocking off the door wall. I put up visqueen in front of it, not thinking that I was going to go over 2.5 or 3 feet, but it kept on going. Then I put plywood in front of it, and the pressure got so great it actually sprayed around and lifted the slider of my door wall, and then just blew in, and it just made chaos in the whole basement, just like a river coming in there. And we had a home office down there, our computers, laptops, had other stuff stored down there. It's probably 90% loss of everything, and I did not have the rider on the insurance. But I did not have a floor drain backup, and naturally not a sewer backup that they specify in the insurance. But anyway, what I need from the township is help with the county to get the southern Omega drain reviewed. With the Milton Meadows subdivision, there is a retention pond, and I'm not sure how high the berm is for that. There is a 15-inch culvert that is supposed to regulate the amount of water that comes out of the storm drains into that retention pond from Milton Meadows. But what we had around us, it looked like a lake. I've got pictures to show everything, but we just need help with the county. A neighbor complained about having water in front of his mailbox. The road commission actually came out and put 2 dump trucks of their crushed road material down, which actually now will act more as a dam for the water. It will build up faster now. But anyway, I need help with getting the drain commission to look at the entire southern Linomic drain, because it goes all the way down. It's down by Leslie Tire at 24 and Gratiot. It's by Meldrum's down at 23 Mile, and then it meanders down southeast going to the lake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you want to address what I felt, I think would be helpful if we also, when people spoke, if we found out if they've already filled out one of the forms and had somebody come out and look, or if they still need to do that.
So it's helpful for us, as Trustee Gosford mentioned, it will be very helpful for us if we know who you've contacted already, if you've contacted anyone. So please fill out one of those forms that we have available for you. Thank you, because that will help us know how we can address it and who we need to contact for you if you've contacted anyone. So those are very, very important for us to be able to help you. So thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi. I was here last Tuesday night, and I'm really disappointed that the supervisor or the the water commission supervisors in here, I don't understand that at all. I'm really disgruntled about that. But in any event, he had mentioned that there were retention bases thinking about being built. And I guess that would be a question for your civil engineer here, the engineering staff, and their presence. So, but, if somebody could reach out to me and tell me that there's something in process and where the particular ones are that he was speaking of and where we should have more, I'd be interested in that. It might be alleviating some of these issues. That's all I have to say.
And do we have your contact information?
Yeah. I'm Dan Hallaby. I live on 48268 Ford Street.
Thank you.
She filled out.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind filling out a form for us, we just want to make sure. Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And of course.
Thanks for all being here for being here this evening.
First of all, thank you for being here this evening and taking questions. Coming alongside us at our time of need. My name is Chad Skelton. I live on Sutton, just down the road from Gulf. Joe attests to the fact we are probably one of the lowest properties there on Sutton. We had 10 inches of water all the way around our house, so stepping out, we stepped in the water. Basically, the water was over my head. It was completely full.
Could you get a little closer to the microphone?
Sure,
Thank you.
I went out right away and got a pump, but we were unable to pump because there was nowhere to pump the water to. It was above the basement walls. My wife made a few phone calls, and the city sent somebody out to work on the pumps at the end of the road, as Joe had indicated. And by late in the afternoon, that water had started to recede, and then we were able to start pumping out. So the township had our information. They did send out the city workers who came by and asked us about our loss, the types of things we lost. I guess one of my questions would be, how's that information going to be used? At some point, it could be helpful to know. We kind of already know what the issue was, but what's going to be done to prevent it from happening again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a statement, address those?
Paul Prada, 48055 Mallard. My basement didn't flood, but the street that I live on, access to Jefferson was impassable on both the north and south. Mallard's the Horseshoe and the Anchor Bay subdivision. I was out that night, I was out that morning. I talked to the residents. In 40 years that I've lived there, Jefferson has never flooded unless the pumps at the Anchor Bay Harbor pump station aren't running. Never has there been a flood when those pumps run. The night of the rain, the owner of the daycare was there. I talked to him on the Sunday after, and he said that when he went there was 1.5 feet of water in the parking lot adjacent to Jefferson, and the water wasn't going into the storm sewer, the water was coming out. The following morning, the ditches on the street that I live on, Mallard, and all the streets in the Anchor Bay Harbor, we have an ordinance that those ditches are retention basins. We cannot have sidewalks. The ditches on the far side across the street from where I live were crested to the top of the road. In those ditches are the same location as the sanitary sewer manholes. The following morning, after the rain, there were 2 trucks going up and down the street, and I didn't get a chance, but my neighbor did. His name is Bud. I can get you his address and his phone number if you like. And he stopped the 2, and he asked them what they were doing. And he said, we're looking for the manhole covers that the residents took off. resident, I walked the street, residents didn't take any manhole covers off. The problem is somehow there was intrusion of stormwater or sanitary sewer water into the storm system. It caused an overload to back up. It's very easy to find out because the township has meters, sewage meters that exit that go to Great Lakes Water for treatment. All you have to do is look at the data and you can see how much water came in based on fresh water and how much water went out. And if you got more than going out than you got coming in, then you had intrusion from stormwater. We have separate systems. It shouldn't happen. And my suggestion, I do a lot of reading and a lot of research. This happened in Dearborn twice, and unfortunately, they got $27 million from the federal government in 2021, and these people are still having flooding basements. One of the reasons why is they haven't done a root cause analysis. They haven't really gone in and asked why. And I sent the township board what a root cause analysis is. And there's a human factor, there's all kinds of factors. And unless you go through this process to find out why, you can spend all the money you want fixing what's damaged, but not really fixing the root cause. And it's not the weatherman. It's either a design issue, it's a physical issue, it's a human issue. If you don't do something about it to fix the problem, your basements are all going to flood again. And I'm sorry to bring this to you, but there's data on there from New Orleans. They went through it and they found out that there wasn't proper identification of who was responsible financially. They didn't have proper work orders in place. They didn't have inspections. They didn't trial the pumps. A, B, C, D, and E, they found out they didn't have. They didn't do. So if you want to fix the problem, it's just not putting together what's damaged today. It's what's missing, what went wrong. And if you don't go through that process, you're all going to expect it again. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Debbie Frontier, and I live in April Cove condo that Mark Titus addressed. We live on a wetlands, yet by law we're mandated to have egress windows. It's an accident looking for a place to happen. My neighbors watched water pour into their basements from this flooding in the back through the egresses, powerless to stop it. And our sump pumps could not keep up with the water that was coming in. And I know of a lady that everybody's talking how bad Jefferson was flooded. A friend of mine, her neighbor, had an egress window in a detached condo in Jefferson, was flooded so bad. The pressure of the water came against her egress window and broke it. The water from Jefferson all went into her condo basement. It was within 2 steps of coming to her upstairs, so she basically had 7 feet of water in her basement through the egress. So whereas they are a safety issue for escaping for fire or something, for our situation, they're nothing but bad news because this time the water just poured right in.
And if it's okay, we want to try to get everyone in, so we're going to give it about another 10 minutes for everyone to speak, and then what we'll do is we will break from here. We'll give the members here an opportunity to respond, and then you'll be able to speak with us individually at our tables, and I know some of us will stay as long as you need us to. So, thank you.
Well, my name is Sam D'Angelo. I'm probably the last guy you want to hear up here because I was in car sales for over 40 years and we don't know when to shut up. Anyway, my issue is I had all the flood problems like all of our neighbors. My issue is I'm really not very good on computers. I have a hard time turning on my telephone. As my friends, a lot of them can testify to that. My question is, nowadays, all the technology seems that you have to go online, go to www this or that. I don't even know how to turn a computer on. My wife, yes, is much more capable than me. My question is, and you may have said it, but I didn't hear it. Do you have a organization here that can get people like me and say, okay, Sam, tell us what happened. I tell them what happened. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Not what you have to do, but you and I are going to do together. We're going to get a hold of FEMA, or we're going to get a hold of whoever we have to find out what we can do to assist you. I know I'm hoping I'm going to get some kind of assistance, but I do not have the capabilities of doing that on my own. So that's my response. Anybody want to buy a car?
Thank you, Sam. We'll be able to provide you with that assistance. Speak to us after. We'll help you. We'll help you with that after the meeting. Meet with us personally, and we'll make sure to address that issue. Next, please.
Good evening. Mike Rayner, 26175 Jack Road Lane. I think this is amazing. We're having a civilized conversation here tonight. I want to thank the 5 of the 7 members of the board that volunteered to come here tonight. I've been very impressed with what I've listened to. My water problem doesn't deserve 2 words. Doesn't compare with everybody else. I have nothing to complain about. The only thing I want to reiterate, as everyone has, is the shock that the water department is represented here. I mean, the problem is with the water department. So I don't know why they're not here. So, but otherwise, you know, I come very regularly to the Tuesday meetings. And as some of you know that come, you know, I have a hard time dealing with the lack of civility. I mean, we're so typical of America today that it really gets me worked up. And I don't want to make a big this isn't a political statement. This is just an observation of our lack of participation. I think it's amazing. If we saw all of you folks here, at least one of the 2 Tuesdays every month, that would be awesome. But instead, there's maybe 12 or 15 of us here. So I mean, that's kind of embarrassing. Poor old Janice, she tries hard on the neighborhood groups to encourage people to come.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate that. Do you have any concerns on the flooding specifically or points you'd like to make? Just so that we can get everyone in.
I'll leave my time for others. I just wanted to thank you all for what you're doing. And I think that warranted in a few minutes. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Please.
Yes, I'm James Locke. I live on Sutton Road. Been in this township for 47 years, so I've seen a lot of things that's gone on and changed around here. I know with this flood problem, it hits a lot of people, but it's something that our infrastructure wasn't ready for, isn't ready for, and probably never will be ready for. There's too many other organizations and government groups that are involved in this to keep it from happening. But, you know, simple things that's part of our township. I mean, first off, I appreciate you being here today. I knew the supervisor wasn't going to be here or any of the department heads because the supervisor told us that Tuesday. He said, don't look for me or anybody else here. So I didn't come here expecting to find you. But we need to get the department heads in here and hold them accountable for what they're not doing. Just one little thing, you're talking about the sewers. I happen to have a sewer manhole cover out front of my property. When I moved here, our road was a gravel road. Okay, it was below crown level of the road then, which is illegal. It's supposed to be above crown road. Since then, Macomb County came in, paved something, raised it 18 inches above the old crown. So now you're looking at a manhole for the sanitation line that's sitting about 20 inches to 22 inches below the road level. Yes, and when we flooded there because we're right there at the Salt River, and everything from Forbes and Melwood and Pheasant and all that all runs downhill towards the Salt River. We get all that water coming that way and there's no place for it to go. Yes, the county is responsible for digging the ditches. The county come halfway down the street and left and went somewhere else to dig ditches 10 years ago. The county said when they built the road, we wanted to put in culverts to get rid of the ditches. So there'd be solid cover of culverts all the way down for to carry the water away from the storm drains. The county said, no, they have to remain open. So the township can't do a thing about that. That's the county. But the township is responsible for the sewer manhole covers that are below ground level. I sat there and I watched it. I watched 2 feet of water over that manhole cover just pouring down that drain all night long. And that's why the pumps failed up there on Jefferson. That's why a lot of the other backed up all over. I got my problems with my basement. I'll take care of them myself. I appreciate it. I'll pick up some of this literature, see what other help I can get. But unless we do something in this township, all the new areas up north, you have them, all those subdivisions built, they all got to put in retention ponds. All the businesses put in retention ponds. The southern half was built before anybody was putting in retention ponds. Why can't you spend some of the money to upgrade, bring up the sewer systems in the southern part so we don't have that problem? Yeah, you know, you're going to have people leaving. Yeah, there's some people that have had enough of this. You say it's 1 in a 100-year rain or something like that. We got that 20-year cycle with the Lake St. Clair coming up over the seawalls. So every 20 years you're going to have to deal with this. Somebody's, besides our water department, somebody's got to get on not township, but on county about their drain system that's going from the ditches out to the river and some of the other places. Things aren't being upgraded. Where are the retention ponds? Somebody asked about the retention ponds. There were 2 humongous retention ponds between 20 Mile Road and 21 Mile Road along I-94 for decades. Because I was a little 5-year-old kid and we used to come on down this way and had to go fishing off the bank. I remember seeing them there. What happened? Township sold that and let a guy fill them all in. And they built Cabela and other stores over there. Somebody made money on that. Now we got no retention ponds there. And those were stormwater retention ponds. We no longer have that. But somebody's got money in their pocket for it, I guarantee that. But what we need to do is come out of here, get rid of the people that aren't doing anything for us. And the ones, their boss telling the departments not to show up tonight. We need to get these people out of office because they are not helping us. People here, they're trying to help us. They have limited recourse, but they're trying to help us.
Thank you. We're going to take one more, and then we're going to bring it back up here. We're going to address some of the things that we've heard, and then give you one-on-one time with us. So that's what's important, is that we can talk to all of you, and you can get some one-on-one time with us to address specific concerns and find out what you need.
Hi,
Yes.
Alice Lebowski on Pheasant Street. I'd like to know, with the storms came a lot of garbage, and we all had a lot of problems getting that garbage picked up. It was really an issue on our street. Some of them, they just wouldn't touch it, they wouldn't pick it up, and a lot of that garbage was being dug into by people that come around and pick through your garbage. So it meant going out there for a week and a half, 2 weeks, repackaging everything,
trying to separate it because it's tossed around. It was really a havoc, and finally, you know, we got a couple of people got it picked up in just certain addresses. And I went out and I asked why. And they said, well, because their address is here and we're here just to pick up those certain people. I didn't understand that. So the rest of us had to wait until Thursday. And then a lot of it, you know, still was left. It depended on how it was put out there. And sometimes by the services that you had, they're not going to take it away, not all of them do. So they pile it up. So it was really sad to see that we couldn't get at least the garbage picked up before all these other people tore through it. I also had one other question. On the pumps, how are they turned on? Is that manual or is that something that automatically comes on when the water level is going? I don't understand it because I had heard that it was now housed over at the small building that was at one time next to the fire station that they took down on Jefferson. I don't think anyone works in there full time. So someone had to manually get it. I mean, they had to walk in there, turn on the pumps, if that was the case. Are they truly at this, I think it's Domingue, that building? And does somebody have to wait until that water gets high enough before they turn it on? I don't know. Thanks.
Thank you. Should we let Janice see?
Janice Young, I'm on Yorkshire. I'm very fortunate to not have had flooding, and I'm very sorry for everybody that has experienced that. We did have a lot in our subdivision that was terrifying to see. I don't know how the ARPA funds work. I don't know if anybody else does, but Chesterfield was allotted almost $5 million from COVID relief. And we've yet to spend that money, other than 700,000 of it was already spent on the boat launches at Brandenburg. I don't think that's really been all that helpful, and I've said that before. So just so you guys know, there's millions of dollars in ARPA money that I believe is to be used for infrastructure, which is what this is. So, I mean, people need to be pressing on the supervisor and the board to really use those funds where they're needed. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you to everyone who came. For those of you who have a question later who didn't get the opportunity to speak during our first session, again, we are going to be present here for as long as you need us to be. Myself, I think Trustee Joseph as well, at those tables so you can come and speak with us individually about any issues that didn't get covered so far tonight. So I'm just going to give everyone here on the panel the opportunity to answer maybe some questions so that everyone can have the benefit of the answer. The one that, and there's many of them, and I'm not an expert on everything, but I do know that there are a lot of folks that get frustrated. Even myself, I'm tech savvy, pretty much. I use a lot of social media, I use a lot of technology, and I get frustrated when people tell me, just go online and do this. What I need is someone, especially in a crisis, to help walk me through the process sometimes. And we understand that some of our residents need that. And so if you'll come and see me over at my table, over at the where my table is at after this, I will make sure that someone is assigned to help walk those through the process, and we will work with you to contact the organizations and the offices, and we will help you do that in kind of the old-fashioned way, okay? So don't worry if you're not tech savvy or you have a challenge with that, we will help you through the clerk's office with that. A lot of the other issues I'm willing to bet, a lot of the other issues, I believe probably one of the other panelists here will have a better answer for you, but I wanted to address that one. So I'd like to turn it over to my other fellow board members that are on the panel tonight. Is that this way? Is that anyone have a preference?
No, go ahead. I'm always talking about, so I'll wait.
Trustee Bosberg?
Thank you. I will answer some of them and best to my knowledge. And I'm sure other people on the panel have additional ones, so whichever ones I tried to keep track here. So, one of them, I think Brett Nigel, had asked about private roads and some kind of a grassroots effort. I thank you very much for asking that question and how to do that. That's something that I've often wanted to have happen regarding other issues in the township too, besides the ditching. Somebody mentioned Phragmites. If we just had some grassroots effort to take care of some of these things on our own, and I don't mean going rogue, but I mean with the proper direction, how we can do that and be of benefit to everybody, not just our own little neighborhood. So that's something I'm happy to continue trying to see how we can best do that sort of thing. So stop at my table after, if you're still here, and we'll make a connection there. Then there, another way to, Click Berry said she'd be happy to handle the technology part, and we may want to team up with the library too, because there's library computers at the library. They're more than happy to help people as well. And if they might not know the places to go, but we can communicate that, so perhaps even a partnership with them as well for that. And then regarding the garbage that was on the street, at first, Ms. Lebowski, I think, yeah. At first I thought you meant, and it could be this too, that the flooding had brought garbage, but I think what you were referring to also was when after people had cleaned out their basements or their whatever mess they
Or
had.
the companies came in. Or they
Sure,
came in.
and there were it could have been a recovery company, could have been their own people doing it. We have the company of GFL that we use for our trash pickup here in the township. I had talked to one of their people about that, asked about that. On the township website, for those who know how to access the township website, it does give their contact information that if you have they will be happy to pick up extra trash. If you just have one bag or a couple extra bags, but obviously this was a bigger issue, then they said they would like you to contact them for pickup. Some people, your pickup might be covered by the insurance, some might have to pay extra for that, and that's not to take care of everything. There's going to be some.
That they would pick it up.
There were, and we were told there was a mix. There was some miscommunication somewhere, but they will still come and pick it up. If you still have stuff, or if you're still cleaning out, call them and make arrangements, and they will tell you whether they will pick it up just as a courtesy, or if it's of an amount that requires additional charges. So
Excuse me.
they are aware of that issue. They can't. It's not everyone's going to be happy type of answer.
Trustee Busker, can I comment on that?
If it could be helpful, we're all going to be at our tables after this, and you can address that question with her. I just want to try to kind of get everyone.
Alice is my neighbor, and let me clarify that we are under contract with GFL through the city. She called the day that she threw garbage out, and it sat there for 2 weeks, while other people, myself included, got mine picked up a week before she did. Why? They gave up when they got to my house, because the rest of the street was full. So there was an issue with GFL that maybe a city representative could have called them and said, hey, we got flooded. Can you guys take care of this? That didn't happen.
Well, there was communication, and I think it was more than what they thought it was going to be when they came. I don't know all the answers to that. I'm not even going to begin to say, well, it's because of this reason or that reason. But they made it clear to us. But they made it clear to us that they do want to service the people who still need the service with excess trash.
Believe it or not, we still have piles on our street.
And I believe it. So I believe you made the comment. There's still piles there. I would believe that. But just give them a call. If you have already given them a call and it's still not moved, call the township offices and ask for the supervisor's office. The staff there will take that information and will contact GFL for you. And I'll let some more people address some of the other issues.
Thank you. Yeah, again, if we can just kind of try to keep it's coming back on the mics again. We just want everyone to be able to hear us, so we'll have lots of time to talk here afterwards. But I'd like to give Trustee Anderson an opportunity to make some statements as well.
Thank you. It's easy to tell your level of frustration here today. You know, we don't have the answers for all of you. We're looking for it too. We're waiting for it. I'm not here as an apologist for the township. That's the last thing. GFL. You heard the information. You can go online and call that number and ask them. Or what you can do as a former supervisor when he was here. There's little blue folders over there. When you please get the literature. There's a folder there, and our supervisor has put his card in there. Call his card if you have problems with GFL. Let him get it. If you have other problems, his number's in there. He controls the staff. That's one of the things statutorily that the supervisor does. The ARPA fund, about $4 million came to the township. It was throughout the United States because of COVID. A large hunk of that, I said at a meeting, may be utilized to purchase Sugarbush School for a community center. Ms. Young, you had some interesting ideas. What could we have? But the last thing I'm going to please utilize that form. Please write it out. Just don't walk home and figure, hey, I've let it fly. Take the time to write it out. Not even suggest play your cell phone, take a picture on it, because if you have any questions on it, you can reference yourself at a future time to see what's going on. I think I'll just let someone else talk. Thank you.
Thank you. That was an excellent suggestion, by the way, Trustee Anderson, to take a picture of that form you submit to us so you have a record as well of what you submitted to us. It's a very good idea. Trustee Joseph.
Thank you. I'll be very blunt. When you come to my table, my suggestions are going to be involving the root cause, and that is a ballot box resolution. Okay, I'm just going to say that right up front. If I could go through, Mr. Kadich, you made an excellent point. The 1,000-year, 500-year, 100-year, we're not supposed to experience 2 of them in a month, right? I'm not supposed to see in my lifetime, and neither are you, multiple 1,000-year rain event. So we have to do what a number of people have said, and that is look at the root cause, and there isn't one, there are multiple. We heard from residents that were talking about a number of different issues, so for me, trying to get them separated and get them to the right people is where I'll go. Mr. Van Hazenbach, I don't know what to do with the problem, the level of problem that you had, and as was discussed, sewage is not supposed to be in the equation in any of these configurations. If we're talking about 1,000-year rains, we're not talking about 1,000-year sewer backups. So why the combined systems is not good, and I think a number of these issues we will be talking with the county. Our former township supervisor, Dan Iacovetti, is currently in the very high up administrative role with the Drain Commission of Public Works, and he's a township resident. I know that he is very invested in this and will be part of the solution. Mr. Titus, as it relates to the Admiral's Cove and the property near 21 in Gratiot, that I clearly think needs to be brought to the attention of our code enforcement because there are some issues there with maintaining your property, and it kind of spills into the comments that Mr. Nibel made, which were, and I like the way you put that, sir, because you were talking about residents who maybe aren't capable of getting out and addressing, their problems on their property. And there's a part of us that maybe says, well, okay, if you don't take care of your property and you flood, that's like the self, but it doesn't work that way, because if you're downstream or upstream, whether or not the property next to you or maybe even down the road from you is blocked, eventually that's going to be your problem. And so it is a system that is vulnerable to multiple sort of breaches and lack of maintenance. So your point was excellent, and something certainly worth investigating. Mr. Chesterfield talked about his sump pump and concerns about the pump houses. That was a question or a concern that was brought up many times. And I think we're at a point in our nearly 50,000 residents, we shouldn't have to have somebody manually, working these things. We're way past that, and so looking at how to make sure that these systems are really automatic. We have the capability, and you paid for a system called the SCADA system, and it allows all of the people in the know to be able to see pressures from their phone. They can see water pressures and sewer and all kinds of data. It's not a system computer-wise that Mr. D'Angelo would enjoy, but it's available. You can see tremendous amounts of data on your phone, and all of our people who unfortunately aren't here tonight have. Mr. Ritter, over on Bertrand, there is no doubt a combination of work that needs to be done with the county regarding our drainage system. And our township is part of we are a municipal separate storm water sewer. It's called the MS4, and there's a 160-page document on the township website that goes through all of the different systems that are in the township, and the distinction made between the south end and the north end was actually quite astute, in that the new subdivisions that are going in are required to have retention ponds, detention ponds as part of the site plan approval. So it was an interesting distinction that I had, many of the residents made. With all this new growth, where does the water go? And it's true that when we create multiple impervious surfaces and we continue to cement everything, then the water just naturally doesn't have anywhere to go except into people's basements. But one of the things that was encouraging, is, at least as it relates to subdivisions and new construction, is that the water management is a part of every site plan now. So the new developments that are going in are inclusive of a plan to deal with stormwater. So it doesn't surprise me when we see the breakdown of where the worst of it was in the south end of our township, where there hasn't been tremendous growth, and obviously the deterioration of some of the natural things like culverts have been neglected for many, many years. So it's not surprising that we're seeing that on the south end more than the north end. Mr. LaFada's comment, you're right, if we don't get to the root cause, we're really not going to do anything except be in this room with probably less and less people, because they're just going to move, and that can't happen. So we need to get to the root cause, and we need to bring all of our partners to the table, starting with our own. And I don't know why we didn't have the full complement of our expertise here tonight, because I think a lot of these questions are not easily answered, but certainly more insightfully answered by people who do this for a living. The story Ms. Frontera told about the caving in of the egress, I really would like to look at that further and understand if we put a requirement that is designed to help people be safe, and then that actually creates a hazard, shouldn't we reevaluate that and maybe on a case-by-case, or maybe have an exception for those in a particular area where the floodplain in combination with potential rainwater could present a hazard. I don't know what would have happened if your neighbor was in the basement and maybe medically not as ambulatory as we would like. And what happens when a window crashes and the entire flooded street comes into your house? It's just scary to think about. So it warrants a review of why we're making the egress part of the construction. Mr. D'Angelo, I think Clerk Barry hopefully answered your question. We have staff here tonight from the clerk's office prepared to take questions and listen to and help as best we can. Mr. Rutledge, and I thought I saw Ms. Marburg here as well. So we have some great people that are here with us tonight that can help. Mr. Lockwood, the 47 years and I've never seen this kind of water is exactly what I've heard in every corner of this township. I don't know that it was a big rain is satisfactory to people. I don't think that we can keep saying that as if that means something to anybody. Because what we're really saying is that by failing to prepare, we prepared to fail. That's really what we're saying. We have to expect rain, and one of the first comments that was made tonight was every time it looks a little rainy, my heart kind of skips a little. And that's not a healthy community, so we have to do better. And Ms. Lebowski, I think Trustee Busper attempted to clarify some distinctions between large amounts, but the reality is I began to hear almost immediately that not only are you talking about flooded items and destroyed items that were drug out of people's houses, but from the very first day I began to hear from residents who said that our garbage basically got soaked at the street. Just your normal weekly garbage was wet. And then our providers started putting stickers on the can saying that it's too heavy and we can't take it. So that wasn't, as you said, that wasn't just basement. That was just household garbage that immediately began to pile up, and that's a problem. And that's a problem with our vendor. And again, as Ms. Young alluded to, that contract is coming up, and there will be discussions about customer satisfaction and the review. So that's an issue that I think is well within the hands of the people in this room. If you come back and talk about who's your single waste provider, you do get a say in that, and you should come forward, because I didn't like to hear what you described to me as I was writing down your comments. What I heard is a few of your neighbors gave holy hell to somebody here and they got their trash picked up, and you were just waiting as a paying customer and you didn't get your trash picked up. That's what I heard you say, and I know that there are some extenuating things, but I don't like to hear that, but I heard it from day one, and that's a contract issue that I think we should take a look at. Lastly, Ms. Young, you talked about the ARPA funds, and one of the things that I was most interested in, and I don't have a tremendous amount of knowledge in wastewater or stormwater systems, but what I do know is there has to be a mechanism by which we can improve the way our township manages stormwater. There just has to be a way, and when millions and millions of dollars come into the township, and the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan money, was designed for infrastructure. And so residents who come forward and talk and demand that those funds be spent on stormwater mitigation strategies, and let's get past the 1,000-year reign as the end-all to debate. Let's talk about what could we do with those monies. What could we do with those monies to create more, whether it's putting money towards basics like culverts, improving the drain system township-wide, creating more common detention ponds in areas where the township has property. Perhaps that could be just kind of spitballing and brainstorming here, but those are the conversations that address what Mr. LaFata talked about and what so many other people talked about, which were root cause problems. We have, I think, the capability and the resources to do that, and I think that we should. I'll wrap up by just simply saying this. We're here tonight because we care, and we want to be part of the solution. We really didn't come here to cast aspersions on anybody else or blame anybody else, but we are here to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I am very grateful, Clerk, for your leadership because as a trustee, I'm not in the office here. I have a separate job, and so I do a lot of work on nights and weekends, and being available, we've talked Sunday night, I think I talked to Trustee Vosberg on Labor Day, Sundays with Treasurer Elliott, and my friend Trustee Anderson. We talk all the time, but this was a very important event for us, and we are committed to you. Just please know that, and I'm very frustrated and saddened by some other things that I have no control over, but again, those are issues that are handled at the ballot box and not necessarily at a meeting like this. But we can do better. We can definitely do better, and you deserve better. And not to put any shame or guilt, I know that people are not able to attend the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, and you shouldn't have to get good government. But please just pay attention to what's going on, watch the meetings, and make calls and make your voice known. Let us know, we'll bring it forward for you. And if we had a turnout like this for every board meeting, I guarantee you would have a better township, better government, and you would immediately end some of the nonsense that unfortunately we have to deal with. But thank you all for coming, and it means a lot to me that we had such a great turnout today.
Thank you, Clifford. I want to thank everybody here. Everything that you have said is stuff that's very important for information and building a long-term sustainable government. And a part of that is that we obviously needed to identify, and you said, what are the answers going forward? And what I'm proposing to the board is to develop a stormwater management plan. If you want to see what something like that looks like, Royal Oak has it. It isn't something that every municipality has, so it's not like we didn't know. Stormwater issues that we're talking about today is kind of something that it sounds like it's been neglected just across the country for many years, and it's something that hasn't been addressed properly, but it's been something that they have, that SEMCOG has been trying to inform people and educate municipalities on ways to deal with this. I would like to invite my other trustees to join me in a stormwater task force and be able to start taking this, because this is absolutely multifaceted. The problems are at many levels, and then some of the things are, the reality is as I've looked up 1,000-year rain event, learned about 1,000-year rain events, that's something that's used by an engineer, and engineers use that to understand, okay, there's calculations that they go about using to figure out how much capacity they need. It's also a term that's used by weather people so that they understand, okay, this happens maybe once in 1,000 years. Doesn't mean that it can only happen once in 1,000 years, but it does, that's what the probability is. And then it's also used by the insurance industry. And the insurance industry says, okay, are you insuring, or do you insure for something that's a 1,000-year rain event? And the easiest way for me to understand that was say, we don't insure for the common cold, but you do for cancer. So that's kind of one of those things. And I know that insurance is multifaceted as well. When talking to some of the local insurance agents and them saying, you know, water comes in over the walls, it comes up, you know, up through the drains, and then whether or not different insurance companies will, some of them will insure different pieces of water issues. And so that's, I had given Clerk Berry a lot of information from the Department of Financial and Insurance Services, and that information is over there. And if you have an issue with your insurance claim, please contact them. If you're having an insurance issue, please contact the Department of Financial and Insurances. If you have any issues with anybody not getting back with you, please, my business card is at the table right in the middle of the back. Please take my business card and feel free to call me or email me if you're not getting any information back, or if there's anything that any of us can do for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to keep this very brief because I know that we want to have individual conversations with the people who need to get with us. So first off, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for being so respectful and courteous to our fellow residents as well as to those of us who came here today. I really appreciate that. It made my job up here moderating tonight a lot easier, and I want to thank you for that. All of the resources that are on the table that we provided you with are available on the clerk's page on our website. You can go there and download any of those. You can share them with others. All of those resources will be available there. So in the event you didn't get something and you'd like to get it again or you lose it, you can always go to the clerk's page and we will have those resources available there for you. If, for example, you're unfamiliar with technology, we will have them hard copy in the clerk's office. You can come by the clerk's office, give us a call, we'll mail them to you. We will get those resources to you. The last thing is I heard a lot tonight, and the question that I want answered as well is what are we going to do to keep this from happening again? That is probably the most important question that I heard from a general perspective. And the answer that I have is I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know, but you being here is going to help me learn that answer, and I'm going to share that answer. I think all of us will share the answer with you, but we needed to know from you what all the different issues were so that we can try to, as Treasurer Elliott pointed out, get together some sort of a task force where we can get a strategic solution approach to this problem so that we can give you that answer, because all of us need that answer for those of us who are going to continue living here in the township, and I hope that's all of us. So with that, I would just like to end this session at this time, have all of us go to our tables and give you an opportunity to speak with us individually. Thank you again for coming tonight.
Thank you all.